Hello, everyone. This is Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong.
Don't curse, speak English.
Armstrong.
Virtuous society.
Armstrong.
I dare you to listen.
Hey, turn it up. Hey. Armstrong. Get on the right side. Armstrong.
Elevate your mind.
Armstrong.
I'm Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong. Yo, man, it's your boy K.O. And you're tuned into the most conservative of our brothers. Armstrong.
The Armstrong Williams Show. Please give me a break. Grow up. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have a very interesting, I'm going to put it like this, discussion today. Topics that normally are what we don't talk about. And I like sometimes getting off the beaten path to and talk about other issues that people, that while they may be private, they certainly have a huge impact on the larger society. Let me welcome our guest, Bruce Hannigan, to the broadcast. Bruce, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. You know, I noticed that you, some time ago, published a book on conquering depression. Let me tell you why I'm interested in this, because, you know, it's interesting. I wrote a column recently that in America, that sex has in many cases been totally divorced from its biological and cultural functions, childbearing and joining families and social groups for the survival of the species. In fact, Bruce, many people have sex for no other reason than to experience its immediate physical and emotional effects. And for the most part, sex has become an industry, a commodity, and ultimately a drug. And let me explain why. Many drugs, especially pain relievers and stimulants, are derived of natural occurring plants from which the curative properties have been isolated, concentrated, and in many cases, synthesized in highly artificial environments. So the problem with drugs is that they cause the body to flood itself with naturally occurring hormones and then prevent the body from reabsorbing those substances. So the result of misusing them is often a prolonged high that ultimately crashes into a depressing low. That recreational sex brings about depression among young people, among middle-aged people, and people don't make that correlation. So when I was reading your bio and about your book, I wanted to hit you straight out of the mic on that point to talk about it.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's definitely a connection between your brain chemistry and what you do recreationally with drugs or sex, or particularly pornography, which is so pervasive in our society. There's a huge connection between that and your brain chemistry, and I think we're in an epidemic of clinical depression, particularly among young adults, and they don't even realize that they're depressed. And a lot of it has to do with this fascination with like pornography, with casual sex. They don't have the ability to connect in real relationships anymore. All relationships are virtual, and all of these factors produce depression.
Why is it that people don't make these connections more for people to understand?
Well, I think we are masters of rationalization. I mean, if it feels good, do it, and we're going to figure out a way to rationalize to do what we want to do, and not see the truth. That we're just so blind to where culture is right now in America. We're just so blind to all these factors that are literally destroying our lives, mentally, physically, and spiritually, just destroying our lives. And we're just smiling our way. Everything feels good right into just absolute self-destruction.
It is self-destruction. And where does it all start? Is it the media? Is it the culture? Is it the family? And where is the church?
Well, that's one of my, that's one of my big questions. The church, I think, has become so introverted, and even it focuses a lot of times on feel good, health and wealth. But I think it starts with our culture. I mean, we live in a postmodern culture that has done away with God. I mean, we live according to what I call a naturalistic worldview. Everything's up to science. Everything's up to chance. And when you remove God from the very foundation of your culture, all of these things begin to trickle in. Everybody has to become their own God. Everybody has to find their own reason for existence and their own purpose in life. And we just get off the beaten path and get into all of these other vices and things that you're talking about.
You know what? I know people explain it. It's more of an intro. It's more of a spiritual disease, and man is so bent on trying to explain everything in terms of science and feelings, but they don't get involved in the spiritual. And why is this so disruptive to the spirit?
Well, I think a lot of it is just the fact that we don't appreciate that what we learn in science really points to the God of the Bible. I mean, the Bible says to look at creation, and you'll see my nature, you'll see my characteristics. But the fact of the matter is, it comes down to pride. I don't want to admit that there's a God that's going to tell me what to do. So I'm going to look at science, and I'm going to reinterpret it in such a way that I can justify my freedom to be and do whatever I want to do. I don't want to submit myself to an absolute authority. And even in my circle, I'm also an apologist, which is a defender of the Christian faith. Even in my circle, I see scientists who they've looked at the evidence for God, and they reject it because of this self-pride. I want to be my own God. I want to be my own boss. Don't tell me how to live my life.
You know what? Is it one of the reasons why so many kids find themselves depressed and suicidal?
Why do they do that?
What about kids being suicidal when they have all these material things, but yet they still feel empty and lost?
Oh, yes. I mean, again, we're putting them in a culture that says you find your own purpose, you find your own meaning, you decide what's right and wrong, you become your own God. I mean, I've seen God's job, and I don't want it. You know what I mean? And imagine being 14 or 15 years old and not having any parameters or any barriers or any boundaries, and you've got to decide your own way. I mean, that in itself is going to produce depression. And you're right, we have an epidemic of suicide because kids do not have purpose. They don't have ambition. They look to the future. It looks bleak and hopeless to them, and the only way out is to commit suicide for a lot of them, unfortunately.
Where is the church today?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. Churches, I grew up in a very traditional conservative church, and now I'm a member of a church that's fairly progressive, and they do a lot of community-based services. They reach out. But I think churches have been blind to the changes in society and have really kind of lost the initiative in defining what culture is. They're no longer engaged in media. We kind of lost that battle when movies first came out and radio first came out. The church was kind of fearful of technology and turned away from that, and so it fell into the hands of the secularized media like in Hollywood. And so we've lost the opportunity to promote the truth because we didn't trust media, we didn't trust radio, and we certainly didn't trust television. And now we've kind of backed ourselves in a corner, and I think the organized church has lost the ability to communicate that message in an effective way in the 21st century. And we've got to redefine how we do church. We've got to redefine how we sell the message of the gospel, or tell the message of the gospel. So,
where are they finding the message? If it's not in the church, if it's not in the home, where is the message? I know the message is out there.
Well, that's my book that I just released, The 12th Demon, which is about, it's kind of a supernatural thriller. That's kind of the point I make in this book. If you don't have God anymore, if you don't turn to these true spiritual values, you're going to fill that void with something that at least resembles that. And so we have this fascination now with vampires and zombies and the undead and CSI. I mean, look at Twilight. That the last movie has made almost over $500 million. worldwide in a little under 2 weeks. And we're fascinated with those vampires because we want to live forever. We know there's something within us. There's eternity in our hearts, and we strive for the eternal. But when you don't have God and you don't have those spiritual values, we're going to turn to a false and alternative that is just a very poor substitute. And I think that's where our culture is turning. They're grasping for those values, and they're filling their minds and their hearts and their spirits with a false sense of eternity and immortality.
Is it really challenging for ministers today? What are you fighting? What are you up against?
Gosh, man. I think, first of all, I think we're up against apathy, as particularly among Christians. There's a certain degree of denial and apathy. And then I think when you get out in the culture, you're fighting against the fact that most Christians are just not prepared to defend the truthfulness of the gospel. I mean, they get challenged on very simple issues like, the Bible's a bunch of fairy tales, or Jesus never existed, and they don't know how to articulate a very rational, reasonable response to that. We've lost that doctrinal foundational teaching, I think, in our churches, and that is so essential to us as Christians to be able to reach out to our unbelieving friends and articulate what we believe in a very rational and reasonable way. And so we're very easily confused and very easily put off by these questions. So I think, for me, and again, one of the things that I do in my books is I tell a story that's wrapped around one of these evidential or apologetic issues, as we call it, that point to the truthfulness of the Bible.
Do you think people understand? We're coming back. Don't go away. Bruce Hannigan is our guest. Don't go away. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.RightSideWire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.RightSideWire.com.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933. Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong-Williams.
So tell us about your story, why we've invited you on the show today.
Well, my story is I'm a physician, I'm a radiologist, and I love to write. And I was just convicted several years ago about writing some creative Christian fiction that would be attractive to unbelievers or people who don't believe the Christian worldview, and to use the book as a way to convey truth and to convey evidence for the Christian faith. And I got in the process. I've also been involved in working in the ministry in the church and drama for 15 years. And during that time, I got depressed, went into really, really deep, dark depression, which really challenged my faith. And I went back to my roots and began to examine, why do I believe what I believe and what do I believe as a Christian? And out of that came the Depression book, which I co-authored with my former pastor, Mark Sutton. And then I began to write these fiction books. God just kind of put that on my heart. This series called the Jonathan Steele Chronicles, which are kind of like supernatural thrillers that are enjoyable, but they also convey a little bit of the truthfulness of the gospel in the Bible.
How, someone asked me once, I believe in stimulating the brain. I believe it's necessary to read, to explore, to push the brain in ways to its height, reading the classics, taking on experiences that can just only games like Scrapple, where you have to figure things out. I just think you should always challenge the brain. I think it's so important. But you just mentioned something. One of the ways that I challenge my brain the most, though, is really when I read the Bible.
Oh, yes.
Why is that?
It's amazing to me how many times I'll read a Bible verse that I've read probably 100 times in my life. And yet where I am at that point in my life, that verse speaks to me, and I'm going, well, now who put that in my Bible? Where did that come from? And I truly believe when you open the Bible and you're reading the Bible, you are having a one-on-one encounter with God, that He speaks to us through the Spirit, through His Word. And yes, I mean it can be very stimulating, very gratifying, and sometimes pretty convicting. Hopefully, a lot of times convicting.
What is it that is so convicting about it, though, and that is so empowering?
I think it's convicting because it's the truth. We've gotten, our culture just doesn't believe in absolute truth anymore. But when you read the Bible, it's going to confront you with truth. And when you are confronted with truth, I don't think you can deny it. I mean, even though as a society we may live in a relative society and deny truth, the fact is we live every day as if there's absolutes. I mean, you stop at a red light, you know what I'm saying? If somebody takes your money, you say that's wrong. And so I think when you read the Bible, you're just confronted with the very existence of truth. And that in itself is very convicting, I think, to us.
Is it your truth or is it another truth? Because people say truth depends upon the individual.
Well, I don't believe that. I believe there is one truth, and there is absolute truth. And that's the truth established by the Creator of the universe, by God. And I mean that, and we see that if you look into science, you see all these steady states, these laws, this design behind the universe that establishes, yes, there are absolutes, yes, there is a truth. And I think when people talk about relative truths, or they say, well, what's true for you is not true for me, that is, again, that's a false assumption. And when you really push that argument, it falls apart. In fact, it is kind of self-defeating. Because you're going to tell me it's absolutely true that there are no absolute truths. Well, that statement in itself is contradictory, because you've just told me that what I'm saying is true, but there's no absolute truth. So you're just kind of scratching your head and go, what? What did you just say? So I think there's absolute truth. And I think the fact that you can get into relative truths is a lot of the problem we have in culture today.
Tell us about your background.
Well, I am... Again, I'm a radiologist, I'm a physician, but part of my background is I got involved in defending the Christian faith, and I've had some training from an organization called Reasons to Believe, and also I have become a certified apologetic instructor, as it's called, with the North American Mission Board under a wonderful guy named Mike Lacona, who's written some fantastic books, and he's also a very powerful debater. And so I've had a lot of training in defending the Christian faith, and like I said, I did 15 years of church-based drama, and I'm also a physician, so I'm out there on the front lines trying to help people get better. So that's kind of my background, and I've been a Christian since I was 10 years old, and God called me to be a doctor. I mean, it was a calling just like if He called me to be a missionary when I was a senior in high school, and God has walked me down a path that I never imagined I would walk. But it's His plan for my life, and it's been pretty powerful and very, very redemptive and very surprising. I love the fact that God surprises us.
What happens when we try to surprise God?
I don't think it's possible to surprise God. I think we may think we're going to surprise God, but I think He knows all along exactly what's ahead of us, and I think many times God just allows us to kind of lie in the bed that we made or deal with the consequences of some of our decisions, and then we go, you know what, God, you were right, I shouldn't have done that. That's no surprise to you. So I think He gently corrects our path. Gently, sometimes it's not gentle, and sometimes we don't even hear God, and we just keep going on and a self-destructive path. So,
what have you learned about depression over the years that has helped you to overcome that you can pass on to others?
Well, I've learned that depression, first of all, it never goes away. It waxes and wanes. And so in my life, I have created a pattern, a system for dealing with depression when I feel it coming on. And I read my Bible every night. I read a devotion every night. I make a prayer list. Make sure that I stay in touch with God's will for my life every day. And then I have a wonderful wife who supports me. And I've also learned that there are things in my life which I pull me off my spiritual compass away from true north, and I know what those are. And so I avoid those things in my life, those trigger points that can push me into depression. And then my final tool is a thing I call a life filter, which we talk about in our book, Conquering Depression. It's just a little card I carry around with me that has a way to handle the questions that are presented to me. How do I know God's will? It's got a Bible verse on it. If anyone's interested in conquering depression, you can go to conqueringdepression.com and learn about the book, and it's got in the back of these little life filters that help you every day stave off depression. So those are the things that I do on a daily basis to keep from going back into deep, dark depression.
Is it natural depression?
Well, I think there's a natural depression. If what you're talking about is certain people, I think, are prone to being depressed genetically, but much of depression, I think, is due to your behavior and due to your choices and due to your spiritual state. But also we maintain in our book that depression is an illness. It's not just the fact that I didn't pray enough or I don't have enough faith. It's a multifactorial disease, and you have to look at it from the spiritual, physical, and psychological point of view in order to conquer depression. It takes all three. You need a doctor, you need a counselor, you need a pastor. And but there is a natural component to it, I think, but there's also behavioral and spiritual components and environmental influences as well.
Let me raise this with you. Feeling down from time to time is a normal part of life, but when emptiness and despair take hold and won't go away, it's depression. Talk about that emptiness and despair versus being down, and help us understand the symptoms of when you know you're depressed.
Right. I mean, you can feel kind of blue and sad, but usually that doesn't last for more than maybe 24 or 48 hours. But if you have a consistently feelings of hopelessness, feelings of loneliness, if you find yourself retreating from people, and all of this is for more than maybe 3 to 5 days, if you find that you're losing your interest in your everyday facts of life, like your relationships, your job, if you find yourself sleeping a lot, or sometimes the opposite, anxious and unable to sleep, if your diet changes and you get to where you're eating too much or you're not eating enough, when you look at all of the constellation of those findings, and of course the worst is if you want to do away with yourself, if you want to harm yourself. And if that lasts for more than, I'd say, 3 to 5 days, you have clinical depression. It's more than just feeling down and feeling blue. Most of the time, situational depression will relieve itself in 48 to 72 hours. But when you get that constellation of symptoms lasting for more than 3 to 5 days, you need to get help.
Is it sometimes help for the physician? Is it what you eat? Is it the family? Is it exercise? What are things outside of medical professions that can help you in this area?
Well, you hit on a lot of them. let's talk about exercise. It's so important to move because when you're depressed, you don't have any energy. You don't want to move. You just got to make yourself move, even if it's just to get up and walk outside for 5 minutes. Your family and friends. Most family and friends don't understand why you're depressed. My wife is not a depressed person. And she says, why don't you just snap out of it? Well, if I could, I would. So a lot of it is having family and friends who understand what depression is and are willing to support you. Thirdly, there are physical illnesses, particularly chronic illness. People with chronic illness and chronic pain, like fibromyalgia, there is a biochemical reason for your underlying that depression. So you've got to treat that illness from a physical point of view. And then fourthly, that spiritual connection, community, getting together with people who will support you and love you outside your family and friends, like church, small group, Bible study, some kind of community where you are interacting. That it's the power of touch and communication and connection. And those are 4 things that you can do right there to help defeat depression, to conquer it, and to keep it away from you. That are not purely medical.
And how do we get a copy of your book?
You can go to my website. I have 2 websites. First is 12thdemon12thdemon.com, which has a lot about my apologetics and my fiction books. ConqueringDepression.com talks about the depression book. They're available on Amazon.
Well, listen, thank you so much, Bruce Hannigan, for joining us in our discussion about depression.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.RightSideWire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.RightSideWire.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Jill Kamp Melton, get to the mic. Look where the little American flag is. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm so good, Armstrong. It's so good to be here with you.
It has been too long. When Nancy said you were coming to the house, we don't normally have many people in the house, but I said, bring out the balloons. Bring out the music. Jill, I haven't seen you in age. You look fabulous.
Well, I do specialize in trying to be young. I want to die at a very old age, young and healthy. I'm working on it.
What is the key?
Actually, I became a vegan 3.5 years ago, and I don't eat any animal protein. I have more energy than you could imagine. I am old enough to at least be your mother, I think, Armstrong, but I want to work for another 30, 35 years. So I'm working as a contractor right now, and I told my boss, I said, I'm giving you my 30-year notice now, so it'll give you time to look for somebody to replace me.
You talk about the power of the zip in a heavenly light.
Yeah.
That's a new one.
It's a new one.
Get closer to the mic like you're kissing it. You're going to pull your chair up a little. There you go.
Okay.
Now.
So basically, as you know, Armstrong, I have been concerned about the words people use and the way we listen for years and years and years. People get victimized. They're always thinking there's got to be another way. We got millions of people in the world who walk around stooped over because they have been abused and mishandled by the words other people use. And so I came up with The Power of the Zip, and it was going to be one book. Now it's two books, The Power of the Zip and The Power of the Zip in a Heavenly Light, because it's got all the biblical underpinnings, because basically this is what God's instructions are for how we're supposed to talk, how we're supposed to listen, what works and what doesn't work.
What works? And how do we train it to work better?
Okay, you got a lifetime, I'll be happy to share with you. But what works is to use language with the skill of a surgeon, not a butcher. And the other thing that works is to listen as though every word were the oxygen you needed to breathe. So I told that to a student that I had a couple of years ago, and he went home and he told his wife that he had to listen as though every word were the oxygen you needed to breathe. And she looked at him and said, if that were true, you'd be dead. That's a joke. You may all laugh.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't tell many jokes. That's my big one, but it's true.
Jill, you are miscommunications. That is your field. Why is communications? Let me go this here with you. The difference between failure and success, and sometimes life and death.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it really is. And unfortunately in my life, and I'm not going to be specific here, Armstrong, to protect the innocent and the guilty, but I have been the victim of abusive language from many people in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
You?
Yeah. Which is why I learned this, because I kept figuring out there's got to be another way. And I'm going to give you a secret. This is one of my big secrets. When you're dealing with someone who is very abusive and pressing on you and insisting that you listen and talk and do things in a certain way, this is what you do. This is worth taking to the bank. Write it down. It's a very big question. You simply, in a very calm voice, look the person in the eye and say, what is your intent? Because when somebody uses language like a butcher on you, they're trying to hurt you. They're trying to bruise you because they're so insecure. They're afraid that you might have more light in you than they do. And when you say, what is your intent? You stop them dead in their tracks. And it's no more about you. It's back on them. Try it. You will get out of abusive jail every time with that question.
Continue. Teach us on Master Gene.
He likes it.
Please.
Well, you know, this book, it's called The Power of the Zip in a Heavenly Light, Reinventing the Way You Talk, One Conversation at a Time. And what I like about it, and the reason why it's not an ebook yet, maybe I'll get over it, it's got 18 charts in it, which help you assess what you're doing and help you reframe what you're doing to do it in another way. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, Armstrong, what can people talk about? I'm looking for 6 things, and I'll give you a starter list. Like, people can talk about people. What else can people talk about?
People can talk about their problems.
Okay, so they talk about experiences. Yeah?
People can talk about disappointments.
Mm-hmm. So they talk about feelings. Okay, so we got 3 things. People can also talk about events and places and things. So I've got this list of 6 things, and then the big one for me is ideas, because I like to talk about ideas. So they have this really great chart, and you write down all the things that you like to talk about with the favorite people that you talk with. So you put their names in one column, and then you put a little check mark on all the things that you like to talk about. And then you reflect on your last conversations. If they went south really fast, it's probably because you were talking about ideas to somebody who likes to talk about people. Or maybe you were talking about things to somebody who likes to talk about feelings. All you got to do is match them up, and your conversation will improve dramatically.
Listen, is this learned? Is it inherited? Is it taught? Is it through experience?
Some of it is learned, and a little bit of it is the way we're wired. For example, I said I like to talk about ideas. So you know that book, Strength Finders 2.0? It's an assessment. It's been on the bestseller list for years. The Gallup poll wrote about it, and it helps you assess your top 5 strengths among 34 different ones. So it will be no surprise to those people who know me that one of my top 5 strengths is that I'm an achiever. That's why I want to work for another 30, 35 years. I'm happiest. I'm most fulfilled. I don't even feel like I'm working when I'm achieving something. Now, some other people, that is not one of their strengths at all. They're looking forward to retirement, going to some island somewhere, relaxing, chilling out, just hanging out, just being relaxed for the rest of their life. But to me, that would be torture. I would not be happy. So these innate strengths, these things that's how we're born. It's what God put into us. Now, everybody uses the 34 strengths. It's just how frequently do you use them? And I didn't find out until maybe 5 years ago. This is ridiculous, but I didn't find out that my top strength was living in the world of ideas. Of course, everybody else that knows me would say, I could have told you that a long time ago, because the people who don't have that as a strength kind of get bored, because they're not into ideas like I am.
What are the books where you can strengthen the mind and expand and feed the brain that helps balance and strengthen what you're talking about?
Well, I don't know if I really know the answer. I know a couple of books that help you figure out how you're wired, like this Strength Finders, and then there's another favorite book. It's called Unique Ability by Nakamura and Waller. And it's based on the premise that everybody has unique ability, something that they're gifted at that you don't have to learn. You just came into this world with it, and you tend to do it all the time. Like, I tend to coach people. It is my passion. It's my unique gift to coach people to fulfill their potential in ways they've never thought about. At the grocery store, I'm coaching the clerk. I'm coaching people when I call like a helpline to make my XM radio work better. I mean, I'm just always coaching people. I always say, you got a minute? If I could tell you something that would increase your job satisfaction and your personal happiness, would you want to hear it? And most people say, yeah. And I said, well, can I give you some feedback? And then I'm into coaching people. And all of a sudden, I mean, people with me say, there she goes again. So once you find out your strengths and you figure out what your unique ability is, then you take this book, The Power of the Zip in a Heavenly Light, which is on Amazon, by the way. And you take this book and you start plowing through to figure out what you do that's helping you and what you do that's hurting you. You got to assess what you're doing before you can improve it. You can learn all the vocabulary in the world. You can speak 7 languages. You can be in the state of Virginia, you can pass the bar without ever going to law school. Isn't that a great thought? You just read the law and someone tutors you and mentors you, another lawyer, you work in their office, and before you know it, if you're gifted, you can become a lawyer. But so all I'm saying is you got to assess where you're at before you can add stuff on top of it.
How did you figure out all these secrets?
I just saying God put it into me. I don't know. It sounds kind of cheesy, but I think that's true because I have had notes for years and years and years, and all of a sudden I said, this is a book. In fact, I even wrote in a journal, if I'd only shut up, I'd have a book. And here it was. And then it became 2 books. Because I thought for all those people who are not into Bible study and don't care about the biblical references, they still want the techniques of how to listen better and how to use language better. But Armstrong, here's something that's neat that I came up with, because I was really pondering how we use language. And I know you love language. You've been studying language for years, and it's a beautiful thing to listen to you use language well. So the top way we use language, I think, is professional, thoughtful, reasoned conversation. And it's funny, I just saw a cartoon this morning, which is the opposite, and it said, you can't stay young forever, but you can be immature for the rest of your life.
And you can feel old all your life.
Exactly.
Stick to the mic.
So I'm saying professional, reasoned conversation is the top. And we'll go to some more in a minute.
And we'll be back. You are pro. You understand it's break time. Jill Kamp Mellon and her new book, The Power of the Zip and a Everyday Life. Reinventing the way you talk, one conversation at a time.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Whether it's their impact on prison guards, law enforcement officials, business executives, employees, or marriage and relationships, Lorette is dedicated to changing the individual and institutions around the globe. Lorette's diverse network and training courses can help provide you with the tools you need to both wisely and confidently lead, manage, and supervise yourself as well as others. Lorette Business Network, a proven system for achieving success in your business and life. Please visit their website and begin this life-lasting journey with Lorette today. www.lorette.org.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong-Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong-Williams.
One conversation at a time. Jill, tell us about your background. Let people know who you are.
Well, you know, I'm like nutty because I train managers now, and I say, unlike you, I've had 7 careers because I could never figure out who I was and which career God was going to bless. I am a communications trainer and facilitator. I train people. I train managers in leadership. I taught part-time at almost every college and university in the Washington, D.C. area for 19 years. I founded a professional theater company in Alexandria, the American Showcase Theater Company, which is now Metro Stage. It's still there. I'm a professional actress. I also I do some I really can't even talk about it, but some reconciliation stuff that's under the radar internationally. And it's way cool. In 2006, I was in India twice, and I went to Chile and Peru, and those were some amazing things. In fact, Armstrong, I want to get the book translated into Spanish for our South American friends, because I'm really excited to get the word out down there. So I also have a trademark, Queen of Bargains, and I had a column in the Washington Times for 5 years. I had a call-in radio show on WAVA for a year, and I was on Channel 7 with Kathleen Matthews. Maybe some of you saw some of those spots, just telling people lifestyle issues about saving money, specific bargains, and shopping strategies. So, I've had a varied life. Plus, I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I am a grandmother. I got 5 grandchildren.
You have 5 grandchildren?
One on the way, so I'm going to have 6 in May.
What do you do to keep yourself active and on the cutting edge of these new ideas?
I don't know. I wake up. I've got jet lag because I was in London for 2 weeks with my newest grandson, and so I'm not over the jet lag. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was at my computer, and when I wake up in the morning, this doesn't happen to me at night, but in the morning, I wake up with a power surge. Does that happen to you? You get power surges?
Oh, yeah.
And I just have to create. So I was starting to write provocative pitches to talk about my book. And then I came up with an idea for 2 children's books that I want to write. But I've already written one. It's about an abused girl in a country in Africa who wore a particular kind of dress. And she's one of the walking dead. She's alive, but she's like the walking dead, and it's just tragic. And then I thought of another book that would be really joyous, and I don't want to give it away, but it's about curiosity and wonder and excitement. And I don't know. I try to stay close to the Lord. That's really big for me.
You got to stay close to him.
Oh, yeah.
And why is that important?
Well, because I'm nothing without God. And it's really funny because I think Armstrong, that I was born Jewish, and I gave my heart to Jesus when I was 35, and I've never turned back. But I fell in love with God the Father when I was 8. That's kind of backwards. Usually people fall in love with Jesus and then, they find the rest of the family. And in case anybody has any friends who are Jewish and you really wish they would come to love the Lord, I just say talk to them about what they know, the Old Testament, the Psalms. Because if they fall in love with God the Father, it's just a matter of time that they're going to meet the rest of the family. You know what I mean?
The family. How do we cure our families? They're out of shape. They're depressed. They can't find solutions to what ails them. They always look to other people. They don't find that the strength lies within themselves. How do we help man maximize the best of who they are?
By being the best that we can be. Because, words do nothing. There's so much noise pollution from yada, 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 yada. But when people, like last year, I was at the Thanksgiving table. I had several family members at the table. I served them their organic turkey and lots of vegetables, and I was eating something different because I don't eat animal protein. And one of the people at the table said, "What are you eating?" And it was like a cranberry salad with coconut and fresh cranberries and oranges and some other things, and walnuts. And she said, "Can I have some of that?" And I'm telling you, this person is 80 pounds overweight, and she shoved her turkey plate aside and took my salad, and she ate it. So
progress.
I find if you do it for yourself and because God told you to do it, other people look at you. In fact, right before I came across town to do this, because I'm in the studio. I'm blessed to be with Armstrong because I don't have a landline. I'm so cheap. I just have a cell phone. But some man who saw me on the bus yesterday came to my desk where I was working and wanted to know about me. And I told him about the book, and I told him about the show, and I told him about what we were going to be talking about. And he said, "That's so refreshing. I want to know more." Now, that's a code word. When anybody says anything to me about refreshing, that tells me that they are sensing the Holy Spirit in me, because the Holy Spirit is a breath of fresh air. In me, I'm nothing, but the Holy Spirit in me is everything. And he noticed it this morning, so it really pumped me up to come over here and share because, God was giving me that little bit of encouragement right before we were going to have this conversation.
How do you eternalize or deal with the psyche of people that don't want to hear about God and Jesus because they don't want to embrace the true power of what's important in life? And you remind them, and you can get the vibes and the feeling instinctively that they just don't want to be bothered. In fact, you could see some of those relationships you once had are no longer there because of that. How does that affect you, and how do you put it back out in the universe?
Yeah, Colossians 4:6. We got to be salt and light on their terms. In fact, somebody who doesn't acknowledge God in his life was objecting to my book with all the biblical references, and that's why I wrote 2 books. Because, God is in the other book. Don't tell anybody, but The Power of the Zip doesn't have any explicit biblical references, but it's, underneath everything that I write and that I am. So when I talk about using language with the skill of a surgeon and being very specific and intentional, if they read that secular book, that's meant for people where they are. It will bring them closer. They won't realize it, but the light that is in that stuff is going to bring them closer to God. And we don't always have to do the harvest, right? So we're the role model, but if we don't harvest and lead them to the Lord in our conversation, somebody else is going to come along and do the final deed. But we got to do what God calls us to do. I go to a church that's right around your studio, and National Community Church, and one of their slogans, byword, one of their core values is it's never too late to become who you might have been. Think about that. It's never too late to become who you might have been. So when people see me, and I'm almost going to be in a decade that starts with a 7.
Are you serious?
I am dead serious. Okay, Armstrong politely, his jaw just dropped, but I don't look my age. I'll be honest, and I haven't had a lot of work done, so I only had 1 plastic surgery when I was 23. I took the bump out of my nose. But the thing is, when people see that what you're about, what makes you tick, I have a friend who says, Jill, don't do so much. You make me tired. But she's been a close friend for years. So something about the Lord's energy in me is healthy and good for her. What can I say?
In the couple of minutes that we have left, how can people get copies of this book? What has been the reaction? And what is it doing for people's lives?
Well, the book is on Amazon. So all you got to do is go to Amazon.com and put in The Power of the Zip in a Heavenly Light. It comes up and you can order it. Now, for bulk orders, I've got bulk orders on sale on eBay. So on Amazon, it's $14.99. If you buy 10 books or more at a shot, you can do it through eBay. Same thing, just put in the title. And that's $10. So the reaction is quite amazing. And, of course I want to sell books, but more than selling books, I want the people who buy it to read it. If 10 people buy the book and actually read it, I will be so thrilled. But I've got some great endorsements. Jennifer Griffin from the Fox News Channel. She's very exciting. She says that I have the ability to help others find a way through a universe that at times is zany and out of control. She's a very dear friend, and I've been mentoring and coaching and friending her for a long time. And Mark Batterson, who wrote The Circle Maker, In a Pit with a Lion on a Snowy Day.
Oh, Ebenezer? Mark Batterson? Yes, a good guy.
So he endorsed the book, and he says, such a simple yet powerful content. The short chapters, short punchy sentences keep the reader moving. And then Cal Thomas, of course, Cal. And he talked about the book, and he gave me an endorsement, and he says, read Zip, digest it, practice her principles, and you too will develop a more civil tongue and enjoy better relationships. And you might not know Heather Puffett. She wrote a book which is cool, Live Large or Don't Get Out of Bed. That's on Amazon,
Live
too.
Large,
I mean, it's just amazing. And so she loves my personal stories, and she said that the book is helping her rethink, and she mentors hundreds and hundreds of women, and it's helping her rethink how she says what she says and how she listens. And I use this concept, taking in another person, but that will be another story. But I got it from Raisin in the Sun. You know, you got to measure the person. You got to take them in. It's not just what they say. It's what they don't say. It's what they look like, their body language, mannerisms, vocal tone, expressions, the whole deal. If we are not open to that, we will be living in this private little world where nobody listens to us, tunes us out, but with the power of the zip in a heavenly light, you have a chance to be filled with wonder for the rest of your life.
Look, thank you so much, Jill Kamp Mellon, for joining us. I'm Armstrong Williams. Thank you, Dr. Bruce Hannigan. All the best.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org. Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Home of the sweet potato pie.
Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get to Henry's at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food. Henry's Soul